Okay, we are at Mt Whitfield. Let's see where I'm going. The Botanical Gardens of Cairns, and we're going to do some trail running. 15k today. And it's a gorgeous day, 28 degrees. So this particular trail is 7.5k out and back. Depending on which way I go, it could potentially be a little bit shorter. Mostly covered trail through the rainforest. Absolutely beautiful. I've been running it once a week for the last few weeks. It's my back-to-back long runs on a Saturday and Sunday. And usually Anna drops me off, goes into town to do some shopping, and then comes and picks me back up. It usually takes me about 2.5 hours. So we're going to do some warm up. All right. So this is our trail. We're going to be going from here, up here. We're going to go this loop, around to the end, back, this loop, and back here again. This is the fun part. The downhill. So, this is the most exciting part of ultra running. Running through beautiful forest. The mental puzzle of having to calculate where to put your feet. How you're not going to trip, when to pace yourself, when to push it. Because even this 2.5 hours, 15k, it's not a long run compared to an ultra race, which is 100 kilometers. Very, very different. And particularly when you're past that 50-kilometer mark, the mental fatigue, the hallucinations, it's wild. It just adds a completely different element. And not to mention the physical fatigue, the pain and discomfort. So there's something about it that just feeds the soul. Fresh air, beautiful surroundings. The fact that your mind can wander and you process stuff, but you're also trying to pay attention to foot placement and balance and running form, energy levels, accumulated fatigue. And trying to manage your energy so you don't go out too quick, because it's not really the fastest. The interesting thing that I found about ultra running that was probably the biggest surprise for me is I kind of thought that ultra running for most people was running at a fast pace like in a marathon, but just over 50, 60, 70, 100 kilometers or more. And I'm like, fuck, I can't even imagine running a marathon, let alone running an ultra marathon. And interestingly, even some of the best athletes walk. Of course, there's the top 1% who are just animals. But for the vast majority of us mere mortals, there's a lot of walking, a lot of hiking. The philosophy usually is you hike the uphills, you run the flats and the downs, and most importantly, it's about fueling. A lot of people say a 100-kilometer ultra marathon is an eating competition with some running and hiking sprinkled in, and then a 100-mile ultra marathon is a sleeping competition with some eating, running and hiking sprinkled in, because 100 miles you're running for days. I haven't got there yet. Love to try it, but I'm certainly not fit enough for that yet. G'day, mate. Good. Thank you. G'day. Ah, beautiful. Now we're into the cool section. Ah, this is lovely. See a massive drop in temperature. Cool breeze through here. Ah, just nice. Let's see if we'll see some wildlife in here today. There's usually, there we go. There's a wallaby. The wallabies here are much darker brown than the ones at our place that are like grey. G'day. And we usually see some goannas on the trail. I haven't seen any snakes here yet. Lots of turkeys. I also haven't seen any cassowaries here yet either. So today's going to be a mixture of tempo and endurance running. So the aim is keep the heart rate below 150 as it starts to spike. Then walk it off a little bit. It's usually going to spike coming through these technical inclined parts. And we'll make up for it on the downhills. We're not focusing on speed. It's purely time on feet. With this ongoing shin issue that I've had, it's just been an uphill battle. It's interesting, from starting running about April of last year, had a really good run, literally. I trained up till August to do the pyramid race, which I'll be running the pyramid tomorrow. Did really well, no injuries. Smashed the time that I'd set for myself. Really happy with that. Then did the Coranda to Port Douglas 60k ultra, which is about 3 weeks after the pyramid race, and I got my time that I wanted, 8 hours, but had some issues afterwards. Lots of really bad foot pain. And then a couple of weeks after, I was running on a treadmill and had an acute kidney injury where I was peeing blood. Early warning signs of bad running form. Basically, I don't think it was the race that did it, potentially accumulated fatigue, but I was running really heavy on the treadmill. I didn't feel dehydrated, but I wasn't super hydrated, which added to the compounding issues. And then had this sharp pain, went to the toilet, peed blood, went to the hospital, and luckily no permanent damage. Kidney function went back to normal, drank heaps of water, but that was a little bit of a scare. Then did Kosci in November last year, my first 100k ultra. Was an hour more than my target time, but am I going the right way is the question. Yeah, this is the trail. There's usually better markings. Here we go. Horrible conditions, torrential rain for 12 hours of the race. We stopped for almost 2 hours with a massive electrical storm striking on the mountains, and runners nearly got hit. The conditions were atrocious, and at about 80 k's the wheels started to fall off for me, and that was really where I started to experience my right shin issues. I don't think it was a stress fracture. I think it was definitely a stress injury in the shin. I basically clung on for dear life and hobbled my way from 80k to the finish, through what was called the Eagle's Nest, where interestingly enough, the vast majority of the people who did not finish or DNF'd the race pulled out at the top of Eagle's Nest. Crazy. I went through, it was about a kilometre of elevation. It was about 1,000 steps. There was these steps were just not normal steps. So you see this, like these steps, nice, solid. These steps that are on Kosci were a wooden plank backfilled with dirt, and because of the amount of water, they were basically just mud. And I was limping my way through, leaning heavily on my poles to try and keep myself upright, and just struggled my way to the finish line in excruciating pain. Took off a considerable amount of time to heal. Thought I was all good. Started training for UTA in May, and about halfway through my training block, had significant issues. G'day. With my shin, and found out that it was, got an MRI. The MRI at the time didn't show a visible fracture, however showed significant trauma. So the podiatrist basically said, look, it could have been a stress fracture, and because you've been off it for 6 weeks, that the fracture itself has healed, but there's this significant trauma response around it. You can't run up to this race, and then you're gonna have to play it by ear to see if you're able to do it. So I essentially had no running up to UTA, and I was just on the air bike and doing weight training. Super frustrating, and unfortunately I'd set myself a very ambitious goal of getting what's called a silver buckle. So a silver buckle is basically finishing the race in less than 14 hours. So considering that my Kosci race was 19 hours, it's a huge improvement in basically 6 months. In the best of times, not to mention recovering from a stress fracture and not being able to run. So my mistake was allowing my ego to let me go into the race, still clinging to this idea of the silver buckle. And my mindset, at least going in, was prepared to do what was required for the silver buckle. My legs weren't. So, compounding the issue, about 10k into the race of UTA, so I turned up feeling really good. Shin felt good. I'd done a couple of test runs prior. Felt really good. Obviously nothing even close to preparing myself for Kosci, for this race, and like I did for Kosci. In contrast, I'd run about 300 kilometers, I think, training for that race for UTA, compared to over 1,000 kilometers for Kosci. So, just so underprepared. Anyway, started well, started too fast. Heart rate was in tempo zone basically from the very beginning. At about the 10 kilometer mark, came into this bottleneck, which I knew it was going to happen. That's why I started fast, because I was trying to get ahead of the pack to not get caught in the bottleneck, because the prior year people had been stuck there for over an hour, and I didn't want to have to then get an hour behind and have to claw back that time. So little did I know, because they didn't announce it, they actually extended the silver buckle qualification time to 15 hours, which, do I think I could have made that? I don't know. Probably not, to be really honest. It was ambitious, but I got stuck in the bottleneck for an hour. And then, in good headspace, made a tactical adjustment to say, look, I'm going to try and make up 15 minutes over the next 4 checkpoints, which is essentially about 60 kilometers. So I didn't need to increase my speed that much, but compounded over 100 kilometers with a lack of training, my body just wasn't prepared for it. So because of my injury on the right shin, I was kind of compensating the whole time. And about 50 Ks, I felt really strong. Up to that point, on my left side, I had an IT band flare up, which basically is the band that aligns the knee on the outer side of the knee. And it had gone into spasm, was pulling my knee out of alignment and causing excruciating pain with every step. I could deal with that, so I pushed on, and then I got to about 65, 70 Ks, and then my shin started playing up on the right side. So I basically had both legs, with every step, shooting lightning bolts up my shin and up my knee, and it was just horrible. And I got into a bad headspace. Look, probably in hindsight, there was a few things that I should have done differently. I was listening to audiobooks and music from the very beginning. I shouldn't have done that. I should have saved it for the low points. I just got into a negative headspace. The other part is I had reception, so I called Anna and had a whinge, basically saying that I wasn't feeling good and that I wasn't feeling it and that I was going to pull out. I shouldn't have done that, or I should have said to Anna that if under any circumstances I tell you that I'm going to pull out, you got to talk me out of it. And she's the kindest soul in the world. She obviously didn't want me to be in pain and trusted that I knew what was best. And look, in the moment, the reality was pulling out was the right move. So I got to about 75 Ks. I come out of a checkpoint at about 70 Ks. I had about 10, 15K to go to the next checkpoint, and I was just hobbling. And there was just steps and steps and steps and steps. And going up the steps wasn't too bad, but going down them, like weight bearing through the shin and through my knee, was just horrible. And I couldn't hack it anymore. it was just too much for me to bear. And the thought that occurred to me was like, look, what are you trying to prove? Like, sure, let's say you push really, really hard and you get to the end of this race. The other factor is much like the end of Kosci with Eagle's Nest, the end of UTA is about 950 almost vertical steps. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, those steps. What happens if I go down into the valley? I'm not going to be able to get out. What if I physically can't move? Do I really want to be out here? Like in my head, I had this idea of being out for 14 hours. And I'm like, fuck, I'm already at 14 hours at 80k. I'm 2 hours at this rate to the next checkpoint. I'm at least 4 hours away from finishing. If I'm lucky, I'm going to be out here for 18, 20 hours. Am I prepared for that? And I just got into this negative spiral. And I'm like, look, what are you proving? That you can finish an ultra injured? Are you causing irreparable damage? Or should you just accept that you were unprepared for this, fall back, get healthy, and come back and do a race that you can actually finish without an injury? And then once you got that, you can start pushing for time and those types of accolades. So that was kind of the thought, very convincingly, that got me to pull the pin. It didn't help the shame, the embarrassment that I felt afterwards, saying, fuck, like, I'm a quitter. This is what David Goggins talks about. I'm a little bitch. Pain is temporary and shame lasts forever. And all of these thoughts, which weren't constructive, but I was beating myself up. And it was this kind of dichotomy between feeling like I'd made the right decision, but also regretting that I'd made the decision. There was no coming back from it, no matter how I framed it. So I couldn't even record a full debrief video and post it because it had this feeling in the pit of my stomach about it, and it just wasn't nice. So I took time off to recover. I got back into my strength training with Peru, my strength and running coach, and we've been trying to build myself back up to get back to running, and it's been so hard. Looking back, like that first, let's call it almost a year, that first 9 months, I took that for granted big time. It was so easy in comparison. No injuries, no issues. I was naive. I was just pushing myself. And like in hindsight, I should have had a lot of injuries. The fact that I got off getting my running volume up to like 100 kilometers a week with really no strength training, with not good form, was miraculous, honestly. And it was just this compounded stress and overload, bad form, sending it in these ultra marathons unprepared and full of ego, that led me to where I am. So sometimes you got to learn the hard way. I just tore my shoe. That's unfortunate. So I think the same goes for business. I've seen a lot of people who stumble on success, get lucky, that it's in the right place, right time, and like, sure, there's certainly an element of their individual genius and their work ethic and the right business model and a combination of factors that they can control. However, They have no significant hardships. They basically have it easy. And they then get to a point where they think that they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I perish the thought of being in that situation, even though I experienced it with my running, not in business. Business for me has always been hard. Never been easy. Sure, I've had opportunities. I've been lucky. I've been very fortunate. But it certainly hasn't come easy. It certainly hasn't been an overnight success. Like, I've been grinding away at content creation almost daily for over a decade. I've been honing my craft for 18 years now. I've been building Aureus for almost 8 years in November. Just iterating, improving, not doing anything drastic, sticking to the same fundamental value proposition that we've always had from the beginning, and just letting the parts fall into place and sticking to doing what we've always done, keeping it boring and keeping it hard. Because my philosophy has been, in business, there's a lot of people who look for shortcuts, and there are certainly easier ways to do things, but fundamentally the best ways are the hardest ways, because there are very few people in this world that are prepared to do what it takes to do it the hard way. They're going to perpetually look for shortcuts. They're going to look for ways to cheat the system. They're going to look for arbitrage of ways to create an asymmetrical return versus risk. And what inevitably happens with that arbitrage is that the market discovers it, because it is easy, and everybody jumps onto it, and then the market corrects, and that thing no longer works. Fuck that. Like, I don't want to build a life and a business on the constant need to reinvent my strategy in order to rely on the idea that I'm smart enough to discover the next arbitrage opportunity and constantly be testing and trialing, seeing what works and what doesn't. Fuck that. I would prefer to stick to the hard way, grind away at it, get really good at it. As a result, it becomes easier because you've got the skills, and then you create a moat that keeps your competition at bay. Same principles are for running. The thing I love about ultra running, and the reason why I pivoted from martial arts and jiu-jitsu, is that jiu-jitsu was incredibly hard on my body. As a small person, I'm 60 kilos, dripping wet. And particularly in North Queensland, the next smallest person to me that's at my skill level is 10 kilos heavier than me, and he's trying to kill me. And I had so many injuries. Funny, I thought I was going to run and not have any injuries, but the injuries was really bad. Like, and frankly, there wasn't a lot that was within my control to prevent those injuries besides choosing the right training partner, but those options were very limited. And even those people, they weren't intentionally trying to hurt me. They just wanted to win. And as a sneaky little purple belt, if I get one over them, then they'd muscle their way to win the next round, and that's usually where the injuries would happen. So I figured, well, ultra running is frankly an old person's sport. the average age of an ultra runner, I think, is in their 50s. And it's usually where track and field athletes and marathon runners go once they end their kind of very high-paced, fast events. So I'm like, cool, well, this is something that I could do potentially for the rest of my life. But here's me, ambitious, addicted to dopamine, wanting everything yesterday, rushing the accomplishments. And that's where the injuries came. So, as Ryan Holiday said, the ego is the enemy. The ego is the enemy in jiu-jitsu. The ego is the enemy in ultra running. The ego is the enemy in business. Got to keep it in check. We've got to build mental models to allow us to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, because that's where growth lives, but not to push ourselves so hard that we end up going backwards. Because the thing about running long distance is that it's all about cumulative effort. It's consistency over time. It's the ability of working your way up to the mileage that you can sustain, that your body can sustain. Before, for me, it was 100 k's a week. That wasn't sustainable. That was just lucky. Now, I've been clinging to 40 k's a week, and it's been sore, but not what it was before. It's different. It's almost like a defensive response from my body, trying to protect myself from re-injuring. So it's like tightening up and slowing me down, trying to get me to pump the brakes. So I've just got to keep this relatively low intensity and keep the mileage at about this 40k a week until the body calms down. It's like, okay, you're not going to hurt yourself again. We're building good muscle. We're building endurance. We're going to do this smarter. Oh, there's the winner. What are you doing, buddy? Alright, so we're 3k in, 3k to go on the blue trail. That's where we are, right there. We're gonna go to there, go there, and then come back that way.